Send it to me. I'll put it on.
Okay.
We'll put it on Instagram and/or Facebook.
Can these go any higher so it's like closer to my
Yep.
ears and
Yep.
less low?
Yeah, they kind of scrunch together like
Oh,
this.
here.
You figure it out?
A little bit?
You might have it at the smallest setting right now.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
might.
think I
Oh, you're
am.
moving them. That's good. That's good.
I think this is as high as they get.
Yeah, they look like they're pretty good.
Yeah. I can see the side of your head now, Michael.
Is that better?
No, it's weird. You're more side now. Yeah, now you're forwards, like that.
Okay. Is
Turn a
that-
little more. Nope, wrong way. The other way. Yep, that's it. Nope, too much. Yeah, go. No, a little more. A little more. Perfect. Nope, too much.
Baby, we stop.
Okay, let's see who accepts the stream. Facebook has accepted it. YouTube has accepted it. And Twitch has accepted it.
Cool.
Now they're going to give me the link.
And then do I just put that into the...
Yeah, you could put that right on your page.
Mm-hmm.
Just put the link on that I'm sending you, and then people will see it live.
Nice. So I don't have to go live.
No, that's something different.
Okay, great. Are you texting it to me?
I am. I'm just waiting for them to send it to me.
Oh, okay. So is there actually someone that's sending it to you right now?
Robots.
Okay.
So much of our life is interacting with robots.
I know. So is there actually someone that's sending it to you right now?
Robots.
Oh, okay.
So much of our life is
You hear that, Lavinia?
Why did I just hear that? Wait, is it already recording? Why did I hear that again?
It was
That was
just.
weird.
It's just on a delay.
right.
Oh, because that was weird.
So when
Okay, they're giving me the link. They gave me the link. Now I'm going to text it to you.
when we record, the playback on the live link is going to be on a slight delay. Probably what, 3 seconds, Richard?
Yeah.
Something like.
What? So, wait, what?
So we're talking right now on the air, right?
Yeah?
But as it's re-recording, as we're recording, they're projecting it to a wider audience. And
Okay, you should have the link.
okay, you texted it to me. Oh, there it is. All right, I'll copy this. Go to Facebook. Post the link. I wonder if I should have got your mom's permission before I brought you on.
Yeah, so do I. I also wonder that.
No, she's fine.
Is she, though?
Yes.
Is she, though? Is she, though?
All right, let's do this.
Okay, now if you look up at the big screen, you see the number 5.
Yes.
When that 5 counts down and it says on the air, you're on the air, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, waiting for you to look at the
Oh my
screen.
gosh, there it
Wait.
is.
Let me just chew first. Wait, did it start? What happened?
It didn't start.
What are you
Just
looking
got to look at the screen. Are you
There we
looking
go.
at it?
Yes, sir. We are ready.
Pay attention.
And here we go. On the air at Think Twice Radio. My name is Michael Gaynor, and I'm joined this evening by
Lavinia Alessandra?
my daughter for the last soon-to-be 11 years. And we have a exciting show in store for you this evening. And the title that we're calling it, do you remember what the title is, Lavinia? Is Buffalo ready for an independent, right, non-establishment mayor? What do you think? Is Buffalo ready for that?
Yep.
When was the last time Buffalo had an open election for mayor? Meaning all new candidates, not an incumbent in the race. Do you remember when that was?
A really long time ago?
It was 20 years ago. It was many, many years before you were born. 9 years.
20 years ago?
20 years ago. In fact, it was the year that I moved to Buffalo, November 1st, 2005. And at that time, then Mayor Brown was running for his first term as mayor of Buffalo. And there was no incumbent in the race. Mayor Masiello was not running in the race. Byron Brown was running. And at the time, I remember, because I came to town from Boston, and he was running on this platform or this vision of tearing down 10,000 houses in the city of Buffalo to improve Buffalo neighborhoods. And that was where we got started with the idea of Buffalo Reuse, because we started thinking about ways to do things more creatively, do things more differently in order to put back value into the neighborhoods instead of just removing from vacant neighborhoods. So that's an aside. But tonight we are going to talk about my mayoral candidacy as an independent candidate for mayor. We're going to be joined very shortly by a good friend of mine, Matt Austin. And if I get the opportunity to come back on the show with Richard here over the next 2 months, we'll have other guests that will join us. I'm hopeful that we'll have Betty Jean Grant, who has been a partner of ours and is a huge advocate in the community and has been working on many different efforts. And she and I petitioned together as independent candidates on the Restore Buffalo ballot line. And that's where this story begins, because we are leaving a primary season where we saw Sean Ryan. Good day, Matt. Matt has just joined the studio, so he's going to be jumping in with us here very soon. But what I want to share with people is that we left the primary season with many, many candidates in the race, and Sean Ryan prevailing as the Democratic victor for the Democratic Party primary. We also have a candidate by the name of James Gardner running on the Republican Party platform and or Republican Party line, I should say. And then we have myself, an independent, non-establishment, non-party, my own person candidate that's on the ballot with the Restore Buffalo party line. So 3 candidates. Don't believe what you hear on the radio or read in the newspapers. There are not just 2 candidates. There are 3 candidates for mayor. And that's why we're here tonight, to talk to you, to see if Buffalo, if you, the voters, the folks out there listening right now, are ready for something different, right? We've had a lot of the same old over the last 20 years. It's a big picture. It's the big reason why I'm running to be the next mayor of Buffalo, is because of establishment politics, business as usual, party politics, where we see people moved around into positions, where we see that Democrats largely hold the majority of the offices in our region, actually in our city, I should say. And often what you're finding is the strategy of the Democratic Party is that candidates do not finish their terms. And then the party machine moves candidates into positions of power that that they would like to see, as opposed to the population and our neighbors having a voice in that campaign and that decision making. So we're here as anti-establishment candidates and as community people and as advocates for the neighborhood and small business people to create positive changes that bring more voices into the conversation, more transparency to our decision making, and more democratic participation throughout the city. And I think that that's really the value of having more people in the race. And I'm going to invite right now on the air my competitors, both Sean Ryan and James Gardner, to engage with the public, because this is our first time in 20 years. People want to hear your vision. People want to hear the conversation. I'm going to ask you a question, Matt, bring you into the conversation. Do you recall how much money was spent ballpark on the Democratic primary by the 6 or 7 candidates that were in the race total?
I I did have that down towards the thing. I know
Approximately, ballpark it
I want to
for
say it
us.
was at least over $500,000 for the top two candidates, and then
Yeah.
there was a drop off. I think Garnell Whitfield maybe had about $30,000 or somewhere
Yeah.
in that range.
Yeah, each of the candidates, the leading party candidates, spent $1 million each. So the total campaign expenditure of all the candidates was over $2 million. And the question is, what do we know now about Sean Ryan that we did not know about him back in May, before spending $1 million to share his vision with Buffalo? That's the question. I know that he's really irritated about potholes. That's for sure, because he's going to fix the damn potholes. That's his major stump speech. And I know that he is against MAGA Republicans. But other than that, there's not a lot else that we learned about his vision, which is why everywhere that I go in the city, I invite people to set up forums. So if you are part of a community group or a community association, or you have a platform or a vision for what Buffalo should, get together with your block club association, your taxpayers association, the League of Women Voters, whatever it happens to be, and host a forum. We've got numerous invitations so far. We have St. Joe's Collegiate. We have the Good Food Network is going to host a food forum. I think WBEN is going to host a debate. Let's hope so, at least.
Is most of this
Perhaps
stuff-
Spectrum.
Most of these activities are ramping up in October. Is that kind
Yeah,
of
the
runoff?
majority of them are in October. I know that the Allentown Association is planning a forum for the end of September. So what's great about these forums is it gives each of those candidates an opportunity to share with the people, right, what is most important to them, and that's why we're here tonight. But this is a one-sided conversation. I want to engage with the other candidates. I want some give and take. I want to be challenged. I want to be held accountable. I want people to ask me the tough questions. I want to respond to the rumors or the gossip about my campaign and what Gaynor all about.
Yeah.
And I want to do the same to the other candidates, because I think our neighbors and our voters deserve an opportunity, right, to ask the tough questions of who they want to be the next leader of the city of Buffalo. And that's what it's about tonight.
And
So-
ultimately, I think it's the voters and the citizens who by hearing multiple ideas, multiple perspectives, and even the kind of friction between conflicting ideas. I think ultimately the candidates lose out, like yourself, but also the citizens don't get a real perspective on different takes and how it could be different.
Exactly. And I think that that's really what campaigning is all about, right? That's really what a campaign process is all about, is that debate, that discussion, that engagement. And the reason I'm so committed to it is because that's what I think good leadership is about. It is about engagement. So I brought you on the show tonight because for 100 different reasons, right? We share a lot of commitments here in the city, but the one that has been a big one, and I'm going to talk about this because my daughter is also in the studio, and she probably, of all of the 10-year-olds in the city of Buffalo, knows more about the Kensington Expressway project than anyone else, right? So, but for me, I bring up the Kensington Expressway not because it is the most important issue in the city, although I do believe it is one of the most important issues right now in the city. But it's also because I think it's a good example, right, that exemplifies what leadership looks like. All right? Historically, if you read any of Mark Goldman's books, you learn that we've kind of been plagued in Western New York by bad decision making, bad city planning.
Yes.
Right? Right? What are the major faux pas in city planning that come to your mind, Matt, when I say that?
And obviously the Kensington's one. And I think the more I've driven just on the waterfront and where the bridge is, and realizing that was also an Olmsted Park, and you think of that vista that is taken away. I think that's one. Obviously, I think you can make an argument the Bills Stadium out in Orchard Park, UB
For sure.
campus, and
North Camp up in
north,
Amherst.
just
Yeah.
the general sprawl. And then I think also, kind of from the city perspective, I think just demolitions. How we had housing stocks, had houses, and yeah, a lot of them were demoed. Now we have
Right.
many vacant lots. I think that was a decision that didn't just happen. That was a decision that didn't need to be that way.
Yeah, it wasn't even just a decision. It was like a policy. It was the vision. It was a massive investment of public dollars, both local and state and federal funding that we brought to the city to destroy housing that now we wishing we had, right? So, but I also bring it up because Lavinia is in the room here. And Lavinia, I'm going to start this conversation with a story, because we're big storytellers around here. And Lavinia has been, following me to many East Side Parkways Coalition meetings. I don't know, how many meetings do you think we've been to together, Lavinia, over the last 2 years?
20, 30, 40.
Yeah, there's been a lot. And I think that also for me exemplifies, right, the importance of how we make decisions in the city of Buffalo. Is that here, you've got a group of citizens, not one of them drawing a salary, all of them involved because they have a specific hope, a specific vision for what they want their neighborhood, their city, their region to be like, and they are making it happen. I mean, it is a David and Goliath story where the neighborhood came together, challenged a large state agency, raised money through the grassroots and through contacts and connections and house parties and appeals to foundations and individual donors, raised over $200,000 and defeated the DOT. Because they didn't believe that this community deserved a highway running through a high-density urban neighborhood. And what's most stark about that effort is, despite all of that work, and as inspiring as it was and as engaging as it was, going door to door in the Humboldt neighborhood and in the adjacent streets, very few politicians came to actually support that effort.
Still haven't. I think we're ESP, our PPG plank this year. We started with just the common council, but now we've expanded to any elected official currently in office anywhere at any level, city, state, county, to come out and support. We still don't have anyone.
Right.
So.
Right. So we're going to bring up some questions as it relates to the Humboldt Parkway, but what I love about it is that it's a big picture planning vision. Right? And what we're talking about is filling in the Kensington Expressway, putting our traffic back onto the commercial corridors that were hollowed out by the actual construction of that highway, fully restoring the Frederick Law Olmsted Parkway system, one of the most famous parkway systems in the world, right? And reinvigorating the East Side business community, while also I almost forgot it, which is almost the massive thing, which is to dramatically also improve the health of the neighborhood. So I'm going to turn to my daughter right now, and I'm going to ask you to share that story. Do you remember when we were going downtown to Barbara Campagna's to meet with Barbara Campagna downtown at Public Espresso?
And
we
you
were
took
running
the highway?
Yep. Tell me about it, our trip to Public Espresso downtown at the Hotel Lafayette and our ride down the Kensington Expressway.
Well, when we went down the Kensington Expressway, I told you that you shouldn't be driving on it since you want to remove the highway, that you shouldn't be driving on it because that's supporting it.
That's right. That's right. And what did I say to you?
You said that if the highway wasn't there, then there would have been other roads that you would have taken, which is why you were using it, and that since it was there, you were going to use it, but you didn't need it there.
Right. And I think that's a concept called induced demand, right? Where, a lot of people, the biggest thing that people say when we talk about the Humboldt Parkway is that, where's the traffic going to go? Like, it's going to be Carmageddon. It's going to be a disaster. It's going to be a mess, right? And Lavinia's over there shaking her head. And that was my response. I was like, I take it because I'm running, behind schedule, and it's there, and it's fast, and it's efficient, right? So all of those things are instructive. But I think that her example and her story is also very profound because it helps to shine a light on all of these different issues that are happening. But I want you to recall the second part of our conversation from that drive. Do you remember what it was? You said, Dad, how long is it? It's going to take 6 years to build the Kensington Expressway, right?
And if they're building the highway, people are going to have to drive on other streets anyways. And by the time they build the highway, people will have had to learn how to use the other streets. So you say that where are the cars going to go? Well, people are going to have to figure it out because it's going to take 6 years to build the highway.
Right. So, like, that's coming from a 10-year-old, right? And I recall, I mean, a very brilliant and insightful
Lavinia for mayor.
10-year-old. That's right. Actually, she doesn't want to run for mayor. She wants to
I'm
run for
going to run
president.
for president.
Okay.
But I think that it's a good point, right? And because I have a vision for how all of these pieces come together, right? It's not something that we just came up with. First of all, we've been analyzing transportation data from the GBRTC that we foiled back almost a year and a half ago.
I think the data shows, right, that there isn't going to be a Carmageddon. The radials and the other streets can't actually handle the traffic.
Exactly. The radials can. And if you think about it, it's one of the best designed cities in the world.
I think it is the best. That's
Yeah.
what I think some of the people in Buffalo say it is
It
the
is
best.
the best, right? A radial street design that was designed specifically by Joseph Ellicott to bring people efficiently to downtown Buffalo from outlying areas. So yes, I'll admit, there is some work to do on those radials to improve their efficiency. There are opportunities to introduce technology. I want to make them beautiful, I want to make it a seamless, efficient, easy transition for people. And I also like to remind people that we already have a highway that goes to downtown Buffalo. So if you don't want to take the radial streets, a lot of people will just take that. But the point of the matter is that, which Lavinia illustrates quite clearly, is that after about 2 weeks, 6 weeks, a month, 2 months, of people figuring out the other alternative and realizing, it took a minute or two longer. Like, it's just not a big deal. And then that becomes the way. And then 5 years from now, or 6 years from now, or 10 years from now, people don't even know that the Kensington didn't exist in the first place. All they know is that in the middle of the east side of Buffalo, there's an extraordinary park. And now, for the first time in 70 years, you can leave the Science Museum and bike through a park all the way to the Niagara River.
Or take a horse and buggy, right? I think there's some actual
Right,
demand
exactly.
to restore the original horse-drawn carriages that were actually were on Humboldt.
Yeah. I actually talk about that because, in the big picture of, my campaign and the vision around my campaign is about how to bring people to Buffalo, right? Lavinia, do you remember the mural? What's the mural that I despise more than anything in the city of Buffalo?
Let's keep Buffalo a secret.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. But then there's another one, right? I think is it on Goodell Street? I think it's on Goodell Street as you're heading into the city, and it says "Tell the world about Buffalo," right? And I think that's really what we need to do. We need to increase the city's population. My goal is 50,000 in the next 10 years. It's also about bringing more tourism here, more tourists. And if we have a fully restored Frederick Law Olmsted landscape treasure, and we have amazing art museums, and we have a stellar waterfront, and we have all these great festivals throughout the summer, and great food, and great music, like people are going to want to, sure, stop in Niagara Falls, check out Niagara Falls, but we want them to come and vacation here, and spend a couple days here. And see what Buffalo has to offer. And then that becomes an impetus for, like, when we were starting Buffalo Reuse, we had a lot of people pass through town, barefoot hippie folks that are coming through and checking out Buffalo and this and that, stopping at Niagara Falls. And then they're like, wait, this place is pretty cool. And then they ended up staying. And that happened a lot just in our community of folks at Buffalo Reuse, where people came through to visit and pass through and were just captured by the spirit of this place and the people and ended up staying. That's how I ended up in Buffalo in 2005. I was looking at places in close proximity to Erie, Pennsylvania, and I came here first, and I spent, I don't know, 3-4 hours here, picked up the phone, called my mom and said, I'm moving to Buffalo, Ma. And she was like, I don't want you telling me that until you're definitely going to do it. Because at the time, I was the master of like all of these ideas. And then I changed my mind at the last minute and end up in, out on the West Coast in Oregon, leading hiking trails with kids in the backcountry. So, but I did end up moving to Buffalo. And here we are 20 years later. And we've got a lot done. But the Humboldt Parkway for me is just an example, right? And it's an example of what's possible if we think big about how to improve our region, how to improve our city, how to improve the health of our neighborhoods, how to improve our streets, each and every one of them. And then we coordinate all of our attention and our focus and our energy around how to do that best. How do we do that in a way that allows people to get efficiently to downtown so that we're not putting an unnecessary burden on our downtown district? How do we do it in a way that reinvigorates our commercial corridors and supports small business creation? Because I know for a fact that if there's more cars and more foot traffic on Fillmore or on Jefferson or on Genesee or William or Broadway, then that is going to help support the businesses that are there. And it's going to start to help attract other investment because people now have customers. Like you can drive down Genesee and during rush hour, and there's not a lot of cars. I mean, if it's in the school hour, there's some buses, but there's a lot of capacity there. And I think that that's, for me, an opportunity that as the leader of Buffalo, we have to think about how to take advantage of that. We have to think about how, when we know that the Kensington is far past its lifespan, and that we need to make an investment somehow because it can't just be left alone. We can't just say, do nothing. There's no option to do nothing. Because if you drive down the Kensington Expressway and you look at the retaining walls, they're all deteriorating, right? So you can't do nothing. So if we are going to make an investment, let's make an investment that pays back Buffalo over time. For sure, if we build a tunnel, we're going to create jobs in the short term, right? There's going to be some jobs created in the short term, but in the long term, nothing changes in the economic districts. Nothing changes on the commercial corridors. All of the traffic stays confined to that small, narrow corridor, and people just take a beeline right out of the city. They don't patronize our businesses. They don't stop for a coffee. They don't stop at the park and take a walk after work. They don't get to enjoy the city because their main priority in that moment is getting out of the city as quickly as possible. So this is our opportunity. This is our once-in-a-generation opportunity to get something really right for Buffalo. And
how would a Gaynor administration, what's kind of the city's failure in this whole process currently? And then what would like a current Gaynor administration in City Hall, what role would the city play in the Kensington Expressway project?
I'll use some of the other examples that we're seeing right now. Like right now, the absence or the void in leadership at City Hall is why we have what we have now, right? And yet we still have people on the Common Council that will say, are we okay? I just saw things dim out a little bit. There was just a little lapse there. We already see where some city council members have been like, oh, that's not our decision. That's a state issue. Or even when we wrote hundreds of letters to, the county executive, oh, not a county decision. That's a state issue. Well, then we talked to, our state leaders, and, many of them are either not willing to consider something else or not even at the table. Senator Sean Ryan hasn't participated in any conversations, hasn't come to any meetings or any events, and, he'll probably make the argument that it's not his district, but this is a citywide issue. This is when we look back on this point in history, this moment in history, nobody's going to single out the one assembly person that project. No, they're going to think about what the expenditure was, what the process was, and what the outcome was. It's not about who serves where. It's about taking leadership and standing up for what you think is right and in the best interest of the city and addressing people's concerns. I'm not running away from people's concerns. So to answer your question, what does it look like in our administration? It looks like speaking with conviction and speaking with authority about what you think is best. And also listening to the people on the ground that want this for their neighborhood. There are 60 plaintiffs on the lawsuit against the DOT. This wasn't one East Side organization or one person that filed an Article 78 or anything like that. This was a coalition of 60 residents that joined up to be plaintiffs on that lawsuit, and numerous other organizations and not-for-profits, all people that came together with a unified voice of saying, this project isn't acceptable to us. We want to do something different. And that is the role of city government, is to help to set a vision, listen to constituents, and then coalesce the forces and coalesce the energy and coalesce the conversation around that vision. Inviting the governor to sit with us at one of our meetings and hear directly from plaintiffs. Inviting our state, assembly people and senators to sit at the table or to engage with the conversation or to look at the data and the analysis and be part of that conversation. The Inner Loop project, and some people think that it's an unfair comparison to the Humboldt Parkway. But let's be very clear. They're removing an urban highway. Okay?
In Rochester, which is...
In Rochester. They're removing an urban highway. All right. Now, not comparable in terms of traffic, but certainly to the Kensington Expressway, but certainly an urban highway that was removed with the interest of reconnecting neighborhoods and reinvigorating economic areas and putting more green space and more vitality into the neighborhood. And it was a massive success. And it was driven by city leadership. It was driven by city leadership. And now it was so successful that they're extending that project and removing another large swath of inner city urban neighborhood, right? And the governor is supportive of it, and Senator Schumer is supportive of it, and the residents are supportive of it. You got neighborhoods on both sides of that highway that want that highway gone. And they're removing a highway in inner city Syracuse, the I-81 that goes right through downtown Syracuse. Why? Because the community demanded it. And I don't know about what their political support or lack thereof was in the city of Syracuse at the time, but having leadership that isn't afraid to articulate a long-term vision for their community and listen to their constituents and engage with their constituents is what our administration will look like. Like, we are interested in big ideas. And if we only accomplish 5% of our big ideas during my administration, and I have a lot of big ideas, right? We have ideas to, how to deal with vacant properties. We have ideas to plant trees. We have ideas to engage communities. We have ideas to train and mentor out of school young people and to be the force behind how we make positive changes at the neighborhood level. We have all of these ideas. But if we only accomplish 5% of them, we're still, right, engaging for the right reasons and the right ways, and ultimately with the end goal being on how to improve the quality of life in these neighborhoods and in our neighborhoods for everyone that lives here. And I think it's going to be an inspiration for people. I think it's going to be an inspiration for people that come and visit here. It's going to be an inspiring and inviting thing for tourists to come and see that creative spirit. We're going to have, business plan competitions, different competitions on how to build really, smart, green, affordable housing. We're going to bring people and smart university students and inventors from all over the world to think about these things and to have competitions and to think big about how to do really creative things in urban neighborhoods. and design competitions for how we can transform vacant lots into productive green spaces that can reinvigorate local economies, that can help to create food access, that can help to improve neighborhood health. All of these things are possible, but they have no chance of getting any airtime or getting off the ground if we don't engage with people and put those ideas out there and try to dream it. Like at Buffalo Reuse, we had a mantra. I don't know if you remember at Lavinia, because you weren't around during Buffalo Reuse days, but Cassandra and I talk about it all the time. Cassandra is Lavinia's aunt. I say auntie, but she's not really our auntie, but she's her friend. Do you remember what it is? It was called Dream It, Do It. We'd have an idea, and then we would go out and start it. And, we got in some trouble sometimes because, we were learning and we didn't always do it the right way the first time. So I remember the first time we did a re-tree planting and we went out and we planted 150 trees. And we had some neighbors that yelled and screamed, "You can't plant a tree in my front yard," blah, blah, blah. Actually, we can plant a tree in the front yard because it's officially city property. But what we did learn was about how to be graceful and how to engage with our neighborhoods and how to educate people about what, we're doing before we do it, and how to bring people together to envision what their neighborhood's looking like and having them be part of that conversation as opposed to just going and dropping a tree in some person's front yard. Because if you're not invested in that tree's not going to survive. So those are just little examples of what we learned along the way, and we got better at it. But we got better because we listened to people and we engaged with people. And I think that that's what leaders, good leaders do. They're always searching for answers. So I have a supporter, a friend, Jane Rand, who just hosted a house party for me. And there was an issue in the news a couple days ago about this landlord in Allentown, Charles Dubucky, who's got a bunch of vacant properties, and a lot of people in the Allentown community all fired up about it. And when she first threw the name out there, I wasn't very familiar with what was going on with the case, or with this landlord, or with vacant properties in Allentown. I know all about vacant properties on the east side, but I didn't know a lot about what was going on in Allentown. So I dug into the problem. So I spent all day yesterday talking to lawyers and housing court folks, and visited housing court for an hour and a half, and ended up talking to Jane, and ended up talking to neighbors in Allentown to try to find answers. And I think that the difference between an establishment person and an independent that is committed to the community and committed to community change is that whenever I don't know something, I go directly to the source. I go directly to the neighborhood. I go directly to the neighbors. I go directly to the people that are struggling with that issue every day. And I find out from them, what they believe is best. And it reminds me of another pillar of our campaign, which is a program that we're going to hopefully bring to Buffalo, that is not my brainchild, but was the brainchild of the past mayor of Rochester. It was called Neighbors Building Neighborhoods. It was conceived by the previous mayor of Rochester, Bill Johnson, someone that I very much consider a mentor now. And, the real premise behind Neighbors Building Neighborhoods is to put the community, our neighbors, in the driver's seat of decision making and planning in their neighborhoods, right? Because I know the frustration of having government and policies and plans that are conceived of in City Hall or behind closed doors, and that are dropped into the laps of the neighborhood, and most of the decisions have already been made. And then the procedure is, well, what do you think about this? And then they'll listen to the neighborhood, and then maybe they'll go back and tweak a couple things, and they'll come back. But it still may not exactly be what the neighborhood really needs. And I think that I've seen over the last 20 years a lot of conflict, unnecessary conflict, between our elected officials and our communities because we don't talk to our neighbors first.
Good neighbors. We are the city of good neighbors.
We are the city of good neighbors. So engage a good neighbor. It reminded me of a story that Bill Bill Johnson told me, we just recently met over in Batavia because he lives in Rochester and I live in Buffalo, and we're both pretty busy. So we met at a restaurant in Batavia, and he told me the story about soon after getting elected, going to a neighbors building neighborhoods meeting, right? So he goes there, and the community makes a presentation about this plan, this project, this initiative that they're working on, and he's all very interested in it because he really wants to hear what is important to people. So he goes in there and they present their project, and then they get all done, and they like turn to the mayor and like, well, Mr. Mayor, like, what do you think? And the mayor like turned to the group and he told them what he thought, and he shared his opinions and his reflections and his ideas, and then they went on with their meeting, and he went back to back to home, and then on Monday he showed up at the office, and some of his staff, he checked in with some of his staff, and he's like, well, how did that meeting end up after I left? And they're like, well, Mr. Mayor, it was pretty bizarre. It's like as soon as you left, they just scrapped their plan, and they did what you said. And he was kind of discouraged by that because that's not really right the essence of what the project and the program was designed to do, right? It's not like, oh, you come up with your plan and then I tell you what I think. I have ideas, as the incoming mayor of the city. I have a lot of ideas. But, I'm not going to just implement projects and plans that affect people's individual lives without first talking to them and engaging with them. So he was discouraged by that. And it gave him pause when he visited other meetings. So fast forward a few months or years, who knows, and he visited another neighbors building neighborhoods, and I think it was in kind of the Avenue of the Arts area, around like where the art museums and stuff are in Rochester. And the group said, you know what, Mr. Mayor, we don't want 4 lanes of traffic out here anymore. We want 2 lanes. We want people to slow down and experience the art, check out the murals, stop at the cafes, experience our museums. And, and all of his planning staff are like, no, you can't go from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. It's going to be a disaster. It's going to be a mess. It's going to cost too much. There's a lot of reasons to turn down things that are really different, right? But he was like, you know what? Let them try to figure it out. They know how to use the reins of power. Let them talk to their Congress people. Let them talk to their assembly people, their senators. See if they can find the resources and the money to do it. Well, they did do it. And they were able to transform that neighborhood, change it from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, slow people down, and now it's one of the most desirable communities in the city. There's a lot of vitality around there. There's a lot of murals. There's a lot of art. There's a lot of cafes. And it was because there was leadership that was willing to listen and engage with the communities. So I think that that's something that's really, really unique and really outside of the status quo. And I think that that's something that as leaders, we need to stop and listen to. And it was so novel that people, traveled. Many admit they won awards for the project, and people would come from other cities and see what they're doing and how they're engaging the public and all of these types of things. And for me, that's what leadership looks like, and it's not easy. It's work. It's hard work because, it's hard to get everybody to come together, to agree on a vision or to agree on a purpose. And even when you think you have consensus or a majority of what people want, there's still dissenters, or there's going to be people that aren't going to be happy with doing something different. So navigating those waters and trying to arrive at a project outcome that satisfies the majority of the people, but ideally it embraces this idea of improving the quality of life for all of our neighbors and arriving at those decisions through authentic engagement. And I think that's what it's all about. So
I think one of the things that was at least most disappointing me during the primary was just how unenthusiastic or how kind of I don't know what the word was, but yeah, just how people don't really trust or have the idea that City Hall City Hall can lead or have ideas is like very foreign, and people just are so used to the past administration that I mean, I was disappointed with even the turnout in the Democratic primary. I thought there would for sure be lots of turnout and excitement, and it just seems like people are very. I don't know if that's something you ran into on the campaign
Right.
trail when you were petitioning, or
Yeah.
as you still go about it, but yeah, when you look at other cities like Rochester or Syracuse, or you don't have to look that far to see that other cities do actual real leadership and have actual ideas.
Right.
But we're just so used to not being the case here.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it's also, what I heard a lot from people is a lot of discouragement. Like, why should I vote? It's just going to be they're just going to do whatever they want to anyway. And, or, nobody listens to us anyway, so why? Or, I spent a lot of time petitioning on the East Side, and I think that people just feel neglected and ignored, and that they're not involved in, any kind of decision making, or have no impact on what their community is going to look like. And I think that can be very discouraging after many, many years. I mean, I'm someone that is very capable at getting things done, and still many, many times over the last 20 years felt like just banging your head against the wall, like on the outside looking in of how decisions are made, on the outside looking in of access to resources. And I know that there are a lot of people in our community that have ideas, that want to contribute, that want to be part of the solution. And I think that there's a lot of desire to have somebody that is willing to bring people around the table and offer people a seat at the table to bring that knowledge and experience in the interest of the greater good. And I think that really takes someone that is confident with their ability to facilitate and lead, and also question and inquire and challenge in order to get us to a better place. And it's I'd never envisioned that I would be running for office, but I'm doing it because I want that type of politics to be the norm, to be the new status quo, where people feel included, engaged, like they can contribute, that there's a way for them to plug in and be part of the solution. And there's a lot of really good people and a lot of really good energy and ideas. And what we have to do is leverage that and bring that kind of energy and that type of expertise to more communities in Buffalo. And that's how we start to drive the change. That's how we start to bring more services and higher quality of life and better outcomes to more people, is that we have more people involved, and more people engaged and more people caring about their neighbors. I think that's a big, huge part of it, is connection and community and care. All of those things come up as I'm talking to people, is they want to feel a part of something. And I think that's what's most inspiring about ESP, is that Eastside Parkways Coalition, is that people feel a part of something. It's a community of change makers that are trying to direct the future of their neighborhoods. And it's super inspiring. It's, potentially one of the most inspiring efforts that I've been involved in over the last 20 years. And we need more of that. And the person that I hope becomes the next leader of Buffalo hopefully has the capacity to create those opportunities. And I've seen that in my own work through starting the Foundries, through starting Buffalo Reuse, that all of these efforts come back to a very foundational principle of creating connection, creating community, creating an opportunity for people to come together to solve problems. And that, for me, it really encapsulates the spirit of Buffalo and what Buffalo's community is all about. So
I think there's a lot of civic untapped potential because people are so discouraged with City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of people. I think ESP is kind of showing that of the energy. I just think even with the recent Charter Review Commission, where is looking at that, is a pretty exciting opportunity, I think, to rethink city government. Also, just I think, if you look back at the 2002 reapportionment, where the city actually used to have at-large council members of people that were elected by citizens that thought holistically about the city. And I think even that decision to then only have district council members, where now we have legislators that only think about their districts, and
Exactly.
even though they're Buffalo Common Council members. So I think we kind of got into this situation where if the mayor isn't thinking, boldly about ideas or visions, no one in City Hall is, because he's the only elected official who's responsible for thinking about the entire city, which is kind of absurd when you think about,
Right.
their City of Buffalo leaders.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the charter review process that's going on right now, and what your hope for that process is? Because it's a big one. It's a really big one.
Yeah, so the Charter Review Commission, essentially the council, this I think was originated when we had, like you were saying earlier, the mayor resigned, and then there was a vacancy that needed to be filled. And based on the charter, and for those of you that might not know, the charter is essentially the constitution of the city of Buffalo. So it has all the rules of the departments and who can do whatnot. So it kind of came apparent that when the mayor resigned and the charter said who becomes mayor, it was the council president. And the council president actually used to be a citywide elected position, so that made a lot of sense to have someone elected by the entire city be mayor. But based on the charter, the council president was the South District council member, so he became mayor, which left a vacancy on the council. The South District hasn't had a voting rep. So I think that was the origination of the council wanting to review the charter. But yeah, essentially the Charter Review Commission just got seated, and they've just started to meet. And essentially they've been tasked with reviewing the entire charter of the city, the entire constitution, and making recommendations which will be put to the citizens of Buffalo to vote on next November.
Right.
And I think kind of the establishment of City Hall is would like to direct that process, so only things like the ascension of the mayor is touched, but it brings up the potential to radically reform city government. Essentially, through a charter revision, anything is on the table. And I think even there's like this charter, there's like a city government think tank, and one of their things is actually getting rid of the mayor's office and having some sort of like city manager position is what they recommend. So things as radical as that could be considered. But yeah, it's just going on, and I think now it's a good time to get involved, and it has the potential to really rethink our government pretty radically.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I know a lot of the folks that are on it, and it's a good opportunity for us to. I know that the county also just had a charter review process this last spring. I think it was non-binding, but they did offer a lot of different suggestions, because I know that back in the spring and early summer, I actually spoke at their Charter Review Commission to just encourage some voter reforms about how we actually vote. Like what we saw in New York City was the first opportunity for ranked choice voting, for voters there, where they get an opportunity to rank their voters, and then or choose not to rank their voter if they wish, to have more input into the process, and to kind of eliminate this whole spoiler thing that comes all about, that if you vote for a third party candidate or an independent candidate, that you're throwing your vote away in some way. In this way, every vote counts until there's a majority, a candidate gets a majority of the vote. So that's just one example. And we should have a lot more of that type of conversation, a lot more conversation about how to engage more voters in the electoral process, how to get more candidates involved in running for office. That's a big priority of mine. How many terms does a mayor serve for? Maybe we should revisit that question in the city charter. Should a mayor be able to serve for 20 years in one office? What do you think, Livin? You're shaking your head no. Why?
No.
What's the downside of that for having what if he or she is just a really good leader? Don't you think they should be able to stay in there for 20, 25 years, 30 years?
No, the same reason that you can't be president for 100 years. You can run for president for 2 terms, 8 years. It should be the same for mayor.
And what's the downside? What's the potential downside of having a mayor for 20 years?
The mayor that you have currently is most likely to win because everyone knows that person. And then let's say there's a different candidate that's much better. They won't even have a chance because everyone's used to voting for that person, and they'll continue to.
Right. Yeah, and we see a lot of other things. We're experiencing this right now in this campaign for mayor, and it's actually it's poignant because we're talking about this. Is that and it even came up during the Humboldt Parkway. It comes up with almost every issue that people have strong feelings about. Is that when there is a party or there is a person that dominates the conversation or is responsible for the distribution of state funds or federal funds, like a lot of people get hesitant. They're hesitant to challenge that person for fear of retribution. Or fear of losing their funding, or fear of whatever it happens to be, fear of lack of access. And for me, that is the antithesis of how policy and politics and leadership should be functioning, right? Like, we can have a difference of opinion. I mean, you're my daughter. Do we ever have differences of opinion?
Definitely.
Yeah. And we get through it. Like, she talks about her, perspective. I speak to the issue from my perspective. We can get into a heated battle. We could strongly disagree. But at the end of the day, of course, I get what I want. No, I'm just kidding.
You don't.
But no, I think that, politics has become so divisive and so punitive that people are afraid to really speak what they feel is most important. And we saw it in the Humboldt. We saw people that originally came out vehemently opposed to the tunnel, then cower and back off their stance because of intimidation from elected officials or threats that they would lose their funding. Like, that should not be how decision making happens. Like, we should be leaning on our organizations and our arts community and our business community to get information and insight. Like, we should legitimately want to engage our neighborhoods and our block clubs. And yeah, we may, as the next mayor, I may lose some battles, right? I may not get everything that I want to see happen because at the end of the day, I heard the people and we didn't agree. And if the majority of the people are against, planting 100,000 trees because they don't see the benefit of it, then, maybe I have to take a pass on that project. I don't think that's going to be the case because, you look at the data and trees improve property values, they improve neighborhood health, they filter air, they decrease ground level surface temperatures.
There is actually a Department of Forestry within city government, and I think that was one of the issues of what does the Department of Forestry do? I mean, they've gotten some grants to plant trees, and I think kind of the systemic issue of City Hall is that you have lots of departments, not just the Department of Forestry, but lots of departments that just are not functional, aren't functioning. Not just not adequately, but like not at all. So
right. Well, the last thing I want to say, and I want to just use this as an opportunity to talk about the last thing that my campaign, I've talked about a lot. I've talked about telling the world about Buffalo. I've talked about how we're going to remove urban highways. We're going to talk about how we're going neighbors building neighborhoods and engaging the community. But the one program that our initiative. There's two things that I didn't talk about, which is just creating a culture of care, that really becomes the theme at City Hall and what guides City Hall decision making, and getting back to the core of really, having this banner of being a public servant as being your primary job requirement, and caring about the work that you do because it benefits your community and it benefits your street and it benefits those neighborhoods. So we're going to look at every department to assess that. But finally, City Action Corps, which is a big picture vision, right? It is a training program, a mentoring program, an educational program for kids that, and when I say kids, I use the term loosely, to describe young adults from about age 17 or 18 up to about 30. Folks, when I first came to the city of Buffalo, the dropout rate here in the city was 50%. And it inspired me to take some young people to the woods, and I got some money from the U.S. Forest Service and some money from the Mayor's Summer Youth Program, and we took 10 kids, 5 kids from the east side, 5 kids to the west side, to the Allegheny National Forest, and did work for the Forest Service for 7 or 8 weeks. or maybe it was 6 weeks. I can't even remember now, but it was a lot of weeks. And we lived down there, and we cooked. The kids cooked their own food, and they worked really, really hard, and they made some money, and they had a really life-changing experience. And I came back here and wanted to continue that experience, but didn't have a vehicle for how to do that. So that's where the idea of City Action Corps was really born 20 years ago, my first year here in Buffalo, which was to take young folks that are underskilled or undereducated or just kind of just feel disconnected from their community or from a sense of purpose, and give them a meaningful mentoring, training, and educational experience, a year-long program that helps them to do purposeful work, that provides an on-the-job training opportunity, that provides unconditional mentoring and support and educational experience, so that after they graduate from that year-long program, they can go on to many of the amazing training programs that we have here in the city, whether it's the Northland Training Campus or a technical training program at ECC or BOCES or AmeriCorps or whatever it happens to be, and can contribute in a positive way. And during that year-long program, they're doing work directly in our neighborhoods to improve the quality of our neighborhoods. So they are going to be the main workforce that plants the 100,000 trees over the next 10 years. They're going to manage our urban nursery on the east side, where we're going to actually grow from seedlings all of the trees that we're going to plant for the next 20 to 30 years, 40 years, 50 years in this city. And they're going to help transform vacant lots into productive green spaces, and maybe even be workhorses or workers in small businesses that grow food, or expand our composting program, or whatever it happens to be. And they may very well also contribute to helping to improve our housing stock. And so why is this relevant? Well, it's relevant because it is a way to invest in the neighborhood, to invest in our neighborhoods. And when you do that, when you invest in people and you invest in community, you don't just transform the quality of life in those neighborhoods, but you also improve safety. You also create a community of connection. You also bring people together to make changes. And these are all of the things that I feel are most important to addressing issues of neighborhood safety, and for addressing issues of alienation or depression or whatever it happens to be, people not feeling like they have a strong sense of purpose or the ability to do something positive with their lives. So it's one program that has its roots in community safety, in education, in workforce development, in economic development, in small business creation, and all of these different things, just by focusing on how we take the resources that we currently have, now whether that's Department of Labor funding or private funding that we're going to raise because it's just a good idea, but we're going to coordinate these resources because it's the one thing that we can do immediately out of the gate to start investing in the neighborhoods and transforming our neighborhoods all across the city. So I just wanted to share that last thing because I did not get an opportunity to, but that's what you get with an independent, non-establishment mayor, right?
Yes.
Right? You get somebody that is willing to think creatively about how we solve our big planning issues, that's willing to listen and engage with the neighborhood, that's willing to bring their daughter on the radio show because the wisdom of 10-year-olds we need to listen to, right? Those stories, right? That perspective, bringing a community person like yourself, Matt, that's worked at City Hall, that has a perspective into this, bringing young people that are the future, and bringing big ideas. That's how we transform this city and make it the world-class city that it deserves to be. And I'm honored to have you all here tonight and to be right here on Think Twice Radio. Wow. And it ends the show right at 1 hour. How did it go, Richard?